Let's go.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. In this occasion, we would like to deliver our topics. Our topics is about enforcement of environmental law, discussing about the criminal law perspective. So our group consists of Muhammad Aldian Sahputra, Abdullah Dimustake, myself, and then Agung Budi Saputra, and Eric Bayu Wijayanto. Next slide. Okay, first of all, we will talking about the issue of environmental law. Environmental problems that often occur due to actions of individuals who do not obey the law. So we have here the pollutions and the climate change. And the second one is depletion of natural resources. And then deforestation of course, and then ecosystem damage due to unmanaged waste. So what we have here, the pollution in question is air pollutions, water pollutions, and of course natural ecosystems. This pollution occurs due to an act of intent. In fact, if that person or company obeys the prevailing regulations regarding sustainable development and limits on the use of natural resources, then this will not happen. And how? How it is related to environmental law crimes? We will get it for later. So, next slide, please. Okay, the next one is scope of environmental criminal law. Law number 33 of 2009 concerning environmental protection and management regulates criminal acts in Article 97 until 120. Apart from these laws, there are also environmental criminal laws that are regulated in sectoral laws, which include the first one is law number 5, 1960, is the basic provisions concerning the fundamental of agrarian affairs, I'm sorry. And then the next one is law number 11, and then it's about hygiene for public business, and then exclusive economic zone of Indonesia, and then etc. We have here. So what we have there is criminal provisions in the agrarian law are contained in chapter number 3. Some of the regulation mentioned above regulates the use and management of law materials obtained from nature. Some actions are categorized as violations and some as crimes depending on the respective law. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have some general principles in environmental criminal law. The first one is principle of legality, sustainable development in principle. The third one is the precautionary principle, and then the last one is principle of restraints. So what of this principle talking about? The first one, that this principle is contained in the principle of legal certainty and clarity and sharpness in formulating criminal law regulations, particularly insofar as they relate to definition of environmental crimes and sanctions. In this case, related to the accuracy of criminalization process with all the requirement. These conditions include, among others, the existence of a victim and a clear loss in the formulation of legal norms. Okay, so move to the number 2 is sustainable development principle. That this principle is emphasized the economic development should not sacrifice the rights of future generations to enjoy healthy and good living environment. And the third one is precautionary. Precautionary principle is about emphasize that it's in the event of danger or threat of serious and irreversible damage, the lack of perfect scientific certainty should not be used to an excuse to delay cost-effective measures in order to prevent environmental degradation. The last one is restraint. What is restraint? Whereas this principle is one of the conditions for criminalizations, which states the criminal sanction should only be used if civil and administrative sanctions and other means are found to be inaccurate and ineffective in dealing with certain crimes. Okay, that's for the four general principles in environmental criminal law. Next slide. Okay, this slide will be delivered by Aldi. Time is yours.
Agung loh, bukan aku.
Okay, Agung Budi Saputra. Time is yours.
Okay, let me continue about the subject in a criminal act of the environment. So based on article number 32, law number 35 of 2009 concerning environmental protection and management is regulated in law PPLA stated that every person is an individual or business entity, either with legal entity or not. And the next one about the elements of a criminal act of the environment. So environmental criminal responsibility is based on element of guilt from the perpetrator because in the formulation of the substance of environmental crime, there is always an element of intention or negligence, no punishment without error. So basically, in this sentence, we can say that there is no punishment without doing a bad act, or we use a principle as a legality principle. And the next one, we move to investigator authority in the environment. So the first one is checking the accuracy of the report. And the second one is conducting an examination of a person or legal entity. And the third one is request information and evidence from a person or legal entity. Fourth is examining books, records, and others documents related to criminal offense in the environmental sector. And last is checking certain place where evidence, book records, and other documents are suspected. And about environmental law enforcement, so actually there is two kind of environmental law enforcement. The first one is repressive, and the second one is preventive. So repressive environmental law enforcement is aimed to overcome the issue relating the environments like polluting, like giving a sanction for environmental destruction, and also giving a sanction for the perpetrator. So the legal instrument that we use here, there are three aspects. The first one is civil law. The second one is administrative law. And the last is criminal law. The administrative law by using the revocation of licensing. And the second one is civil law. Civil law by applying the the compensation, and the criminal law is by applying the imprisonment and fine for every perpetrator. And the second one is about the preventive environmental law enforcement is aimed to prevent every every bad action that did by perpetrator. Like for example, they do like littering, like deforestation and others. So we use like some regulation here. There is a regulation that called is AMDAL. AMDAL is a regulation to regulate about the environmental law or prevent from the impact of the environmental law. So the next we have types of sanction in environmental crimes based on the law number 35 of 2009 concerning environmental protection and management provides various legal means in environmental law enforcement. So as I mentioned before, to to apply a repressive principle, so we use three legal instrument here. The first one is administrative law, the second one is civil law, and the last is criminal law. what does it mean by administrative law is like the revocation of licensing, but actually this legal instrument is not quite effective because many business actors like always break the law. And for the civil law, it's also not effective because the punishment is not strict enough to forbidden the perpetrator. And the last is the most effective legal instrument to prevent for environmental destruction by using the criminal sanction. Because when we use a criminal sanction, we use like imprisonment, and also we use like we impose fine for every perpetrators. So I think the criminal law is more, if we use criminal law is the most effective legal instrument compared with others. Sorry. So we move to the function of criminal law in environmental law. According to Alvin Shahrin, the functionalization of criminal law in order to overcome the problem of environmental law destruction as a result of development is realized through the formulation of criminal sanction in regulation, legislation, and applicable. So beside this function, so actually the function of criminal law is to prevent to prevent and protect the human interest and also environmental interest. Why I put the human interest first? Because like even though a human have a many wealth, but if they cannot access
I'm sorry, Aldi. Your connection is maybe lost. We cannot hear you. Aldi, Aldi, your connection is lost. We cannot hear you.
my connection.
Yeah, or maybe our connection. So you can continue. The connection is stable, back to normal.
Oh, okay.
You may continue.
Sampai mana tadi ya? Lupa lagi. And the second one is actually the function of criminal law is to make the environmental destroyer is is apa ya, is cause there an effect, so they will not probably do it again for the next feature. So by applying this function of criminal law, I think um, hopefully we cannot see like there is no perpetrator or environmental destroyer will break the law, especially in environmental aspects. Okay, we move here. There is a constraint in handling environmental crime based on the in Article 95, Paragraph 1, UUPLH, which reads, in the framework of law enforcement against perpetrators of environmental crimes, integrated law enforcement can be carried out between civil servants, investigator, police, and the prosecutor's office under the coordination of the minister. So what we can what we can see here about the constraints, actually there is some obstacle that we have to face against by applying this environmental sanction. For example, for the first one, there's still like many society that they have a lack of knowledge or they have a lack of information, like how to report if there is a environmental crime, especially like in the forest or maybe in their sector. They don't know like how to report about this case. And also the second one is about the coordination between ppnh and police, and also the judge is still late. So by now this witness, hopefully hopefully we can manage it as well in one day. So but the conclusion, environmental law enforcement according to the UUPLH can be carried out by imposing preventive and repressive manner. So preventive enforcement of environmental law is aimed directly at preventing environmental damage and or pollution. So the legal instrument that we use here is a three. As I mentioned before, is administrative law, civil law, and last is criminal law. But the most effective instrument is the criminal law. So better if we use the criminal law if to prevent from the environmental crimes. And the second is a repressive environment of environmental law is aimed directly at overcoming environmental destruction and or pollution. So actually, this principle, as we mentioned before, is used to overcome the issue to prevent and also to overcome the issue relating to the environmental destruction, like by applying AMDAL as a regulation to protect the environmental aspect. And the last is environmental criminal law enforcement. Efforts in overcoming state losses must also include enforcement in a broad sense. Of course, this has a consequence that efforts to improve the quality of development. So basically, what we can conclude here is the government and the society have to hang in hand together to make the environmental become more suitable, clean, and also safe by preventing from any environmental crimes, and also by keeping a good daily life. For example, like do not do littering, do not do deforestation, and do not do unwaste waste to the river and others. So as a nation and also as a society, we have to work together in order to get the better generation for our future. So that's all for our group presentation. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.